From claims of healings and visions to the world's most inexplicable events, whether you're a believer or a skeptic, the truth is always worth the hunt.
EWTN Radio presents The Miracle Hunter with Michael O'Neill.
Welcome to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. Well, this past weekend I was certainly hunting for a miracle, and that was almost answered when I was watching the Chicago Bears playoff game. I thought with that incredible, miraculous last-second pass, sending the game into overtime, the Bears might be winning the Super Bowl, or at least I was hoping that it was headed that direction. At the very least, it's my 50th birthday tomorrow. I was going to be going to the Super Bowl with 50th birthday tickets, but anyway, it didn't quite pan out. I guess God has other plans for the Chicago Bears, maybe in a future season. But sports fans around the world always pray for miracles, and I was one of those people this past weekend. And we've got a great show ahead for you today. You know, I always love talking about American saints, and we've got two to discuss today. One is an American saint, St. Marianne Cope from Hawaii, and we'll be talking with Kristen Barret-Anderson. She's the director of the Museum and Shrine to St. Marianne Cope. We'll also be talking with Lenora McKean. She's the executive director of the Bishop Baraga Association. Bishop Baraga is always, for me, going to be one of my favorite future saints until he becomes a saint himself. He's a venerable now, and there's a new miracle that's being considered that would boost him ahead to blessed, and then that would lead to saint at some day in the future. But we'll find out from Lenora about this miracle and how it's progressing as far as its approval process in the United States and in Rome. And check out my series, They Might Be Saints. This coming up next is on January 27th. Mother Mary Teresa Dujic is the subject of the canonization cause and episode. She's a Polish immigrant who founded her own order of nuns to care for the poor, elderly, and abandoned. Check that one out on January 27th. That's one of our latest episodes. It's one of my favorites, so check that one out. And you can go to watch Explore with the Miracle Hunter on Saturday, January 31st at 5:30 p.m. Padre Pio, the great miracle-working saint, is my latest subject there. And you can journey to Italy with me to meet the man known worldwide for healing miracles by location and exhibiting the wounds of Christ in the stigmata. And that's Saturday, January 31st at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. Later in the show, we're going to be looking at the Might Be Saint of the Day, like we always do. And for today, we've got Blessed Luigi Benducci, who lived from 1897 to 1947 in Albania. He's a martyr. And the 365 Days with Mary project looks at the icon of the Mother of God of Elets from Russia in the year 1060. And the question of the week, is there a new miracle being reported for Pope Benedict XVI's possible canonization? I'll do my best to answer that one. And the miracle of the day, there was a Eucharistic miracle that happened in Naples in 1772. And I'll be talking about that one as it lines up exactly today's date. Let's take a look at the miracle news. I love reporting on those things happening around the world and those things that relate to miracles. And people can go to the Facebook feed of The Miracle Hunter for the latest and greatest news items. And this was pretty interesting to me. It's kind of big miracle news, in my opinion. There is a new alleged Marian apparition coming from Rwanda. So this month, reports have emerged from the Muzanzi district in northern Rwanda that two primary school children had seen an apparition of the Virgin Mary near their school, close to the Busogo Catholic parish. And according to these accounts, the figure appeared first on an electricity pole and then in a nearby tree, and she was described as a luminous woman holding the infant Jesus. And as news spread, hundreds to thousands of people reportedly traveled from various parts of the country to the site, with many people praying, singing the rosary, spending hours hoping to witness the phenomena for themselves. And the crowds grew quickly, and it drew the attention of the civil authorities and the church authorities, and they urged restraint and discernment. Of course, local government officials, including the Muzanzi mayor, characterized the reports as rumors after finding nothing unusual at that gathering point. And the Rwanda Energy Group even removed the electricity pole where the apparition was to help disperse the crowds and maintain safety. And church leaders emphasized that these claims like these must be treated with caution and not as automatically accepting them as miraculous. And clergy from the Catholic Diocese of Ruhengeri stressed the authentic apparitions undergo a rigorous investigative process and cannot simply be validated because people gather, because individuals believe they see something. At least one senior cleric noted how pareidolia, that's that human tendency, that psychological effect to see meaningful images in natural patterns, could explain why some witnesses reported seeing shapes resembling Mary in the tree branches or surroundings, and the church reminded the faithful that their spiritual life should be grounded in scripture tradition and approved teaching, just not on approved verified sightings. And of course, this has reignited discussion in Rwanda about Marian apparitions, coming decades after the well-known Our Lady of Kibeho apparitions in the 1980s, the only Marian apparitions in Africa officially recognized by the Catholic Church following a very lengthy ecclesiastical review. And these earlier events drew global attention and are credited with significant spiritual renewal and cultural impact in that country. And in contrast, the Muzanzi reports are, of course, unconfirmed, and authorities are urging calm and awaiting any potential church evaluation, if there is any. And so that is today's Miracle News Report. Let's take a look at Catholic Pub Trivia. We do this every week where we ask a trivia question and give out a prize to an email that writes in the fastest with the correct answer. And last week we talked about Pont Maine, the silent apparition that happened in France. And the question from last week was, name another silent church-approved Marian apparition. And of course, the church approval is the key catch in that question. But there have been a number of church-approved Marian apparitions that were silent. The most famous, of course, is Knock in Ireland in 1879, where around 20 people gathered out in the rain, and they saw an image of the Virgin Mary and Jesus and Joseph, and Jesus as a lamb, as it were, and St. John. And then Zaytun in the 1960s, Mary appeared on this rooftop of St. Mark's Coptic Orthodox Church over the course of a few years, and the crowds gathered in the hundreds or thousands to see this happen. And in Batania, in Venezuela, on March 25th, 1984, there was a large apparition where Mary was seen by a good group of people there, and that was reported, and that was actually approved by the local bishop as being authentic. So those are three cases that I know of anyway, where the Catholic Church has put approval on a Marian apparition when she hasn't said anything or given any messages. Perhaps there are others, but those are the main ones that I can think of anyway. And thanks for everyone who wrote in with that answer. The question for this week, we're going to be talking about St. Marianne Cope. She's a saint from Hawaii. And the question is, who is the other saint from Hawaii who has been canonized? If you think you know that answer, want to win the prize, the image of the faces of Mary, send me an email to questions@miraclehunter.com. I think this is an easy one. We'll see who writes in the fastest, and the fastest will be the winner of that prize. And answers and winners will be posted on the show page on miraclehunter.com. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking with Kristen Barret-Anderson, the director of the museum and shrine dedicated to St. Marianne Cope. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. Here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. We talk a lot about saints on this show and American saints, and there aren't that many from the United States that have been recognized by Rome as having their two miracles that are recognized to be saints who lived in the United States. In my book, They Might Be Saints, highlights some of these people, and one of these people is St. Marianne Cope. You might know her through her work in Hawaii, in the leper colony there, and the incredible legacy that she's left there, and she's recognized as a saint in our Catholic Church. Well, we're so excited, in lieu of her feast day, which is celebrated every year on January 23rd, to talk to Kristen Barret-Anderson. She's the director of the museum and shrine, which honors St. Marianne Cope. Welcome back to the program today, Kristen.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to talk with you again, and It's always an exciting time to bring to light saints that maybe most Americans aren't even aware of, which I know on the East Coast, perhaps St. Marianne Cope is a little better known, but many people know St. Damien, but not St. Marianne. So if we were to draw attention to St. Marianne today, who was she? Tell us a little bit about her.
Well, she was an amazing leader in her community here in Syracuse. She was part of the definitorium that determined to start hospitals here to care for people who were not being cared for. So St. Elizabeth's in Utica, New York, and then St. Joseph's Hospital right here in Syracuse. And as administrator here, she developed programming and rules in infection control and hygiene and patients' rights that weren't being seen anywhere else in the U.S.
Wonderful. And tell us about her time in Hawaii. How did she end up going there, and what was her impact when she went?
Yeah, so she was elected leader of her community shortly after her administration here at St. Joseph's Hospital. So she received the letter that was written on behalf of the King and Queen of the then Sandwich Islands, now Hawaii. And they were looking for people, Sisters of Charity, to come and care for the thousands and thousands of people who were being afflicted with leprosy, now known as Hansen's disease. And Marianne took six sisters over. They started hospitals and schools and ended up the last 35 years of her life on Kalapapa, which was the exile settlement set up for patients.
And one of the things that that's always kind of made me smile or made me reflect on with St. Marianne Cope is how she really focused on the dignity of each person, including doing such things as taking designs out of Vogue magazine and making outfits and clothing for the women to give them dignity and to celebrate them in a way that you might not expect in a colony such as that.
Yeah, I mean, it was whole mind, body, spirit healing. Besides medical care, they wanted to give each person a full, whole life, no matter how long or short or challenged. And the question is, how do you do that on a peninsula in the middle of the Pacific Ocean? And so you have to bring everything there so that they could choose how they would live their lives, and teaching them to sew and giving them patterns and music, instruments, seeds for gardening, literature, sports. Everything was available so that people could choose their own life.
Yeah, amazing. And talk about the legacy of St. Marianne Cope. She, after her death, her reputation for holiness was far and wide, and she was actually recognized a saint in our Catholic Church. Talk a little bit about that process of recognizing her life of heroic virtue and moving that forward towards her canonization.
Yeah, it was pretty early on, even before her death, that her community realized, and a lot of people realized, that she was very special and that bringing that cause for canonization was a worthwhile move. At that point, they went to Sister Leopoldina Burns, who had been keeping a daily diary during that 35 years on Kalapapa, and asked her to write a story and take all of those journals and create a little history of life on Kalapapa and life with Marianne. So it started very early, and then it was 1973 when the Superior General at that point gave the approval to really dedicate one sister's time, full time, towards the canonization process. Of course, after that, you have the exhumation of remains, and you have the pursuit of documenting 2 miracles. And all of that, came to fruition in 2012.
Wonderful. And just to recap those 2 miracles, we've talked about this on the program before, but tell us just in a short form the 2 miracles that were used for her canonization.
Yeah, Kate Mahoney was the first, and she was 14 years old at the time and found herself, deathly ill in the hospital, organs shutting down, and the director of the cause, Sister Mary Lawrence Hanley, actually knew her parents, and contacted them and said, would you be willing to have your family, your friends, pray to Marianne for her intercession and Kate's healing? And incredibly, Sister Mary Lawrence would put out each week, this week we're praying for Kate's liver. And, then the next week it would be, now we're praying for her kidneys. And the doctors actually saw improvement in those organs during that time period. So when it came time to verify all of this as there being no medical reason for her healing, the doctors could document and see these improvements until her organs were totally healed.
Truly, truly amazing. And we've spoken with Kate on the show before, and her story is absolutely incredible. And the other miracle, was it Sharon Smith? Was that the name of the other recipient?
It was. She was right here at St. Joseph's Hospital, and similar, total organ shut down, and people were waiting for her to die. And one of the sisters who was volunteering up here had, at that point, a little bag of soil from Marianne's grave, and pinned it to her, and started prayers with the family and friends and the sisters, and the same. At one point they just said, you're all good. Are you hungry? Is there something you'd like to eat? She just, it turned right around.
Absolutely amazing. We're talking today with Kristen Barret-Anderson, the director of the museum and shrine dedicated to St. Marianne Cope. And we're talking about her miracles that were used toward her canonization. And of course, the Catholic Church requires extreme documentation in order for any of those to be validated and used to show the intercession of a potential saint. But I know that there are miracles that still even happen even today, even the non-documented kind, things that are reported to your shrine. Talk a little bit about that, the miracles that continue on through the intercession of St. Marianne Cope.
Yeah, we receive cards and calls and visitors, every week that are talking about their own miracles and how they prayed and how someone healed. And it's inspiring. It's incredible. We know that her legacy continues on every single day in the people who are inspired by her.
Absolutely amazing. And people who want to find out more about St. Marianne Cope can go to the website, stmarianne.org, but they can also visit your museum and shrine. Tell us a little bit, especially about some of the new offerings that are being set out there at the museum now.
Yeah, the museum is a beautiful little gem here in Syracuse next to St. Joseph's Hospital, appropriately. And it tells the story of Marianne and the Sisters of St. Francis, all the way from her emigrating here as a toddler from Germany, and then entering the community, and then all the way through the canonization. And we are carrying on her legacy by providing programming to caregivers, and especially those who find themselves at home caring for loved ones. There's so much information and so many resources that could benefit them between programming in compassionate empathy and communication, and simply learning how to become an advocate through the healthcare system. So we spend a lot of time with nursing schools and people who are investigating and in the healthcare industry, and teaching how they too can be inspired and learn through the practices of Marianne to be a better caregiver and to provide better care for their patients.
Wonderful. And as we wrap up the interview today, in lieu of her feast day, which is upon us, tell us a little bit about how we can turn to St. Marianne for inspiration and perhaps for her intercession in today's world.
Well, I've been thinking a lot lately about faith and faith over fear, and how Marianne's faith gave her the strength and the courage to say yes when she was offered a challenge to, travel to a foreign land and a foreign language and care for patients with this really terrifying disease. And I've been asking a lot of people, what gives you your faith and your strength and your courage over fear, so that we can also see and be aware of injustices? And how can we take that faith to allow us to speak out against injustice? And how can it allow us to act in service to those who are marginalized? I think we forget that we all, in our core, have this strength and this courage through our faith that we can make decisions to be in better service of others. And I think that, finding that and seeking it out and being aware of it and acting on it are incredible ways to honor Marianne and all the saints.
Absolutely. Well, we're so grateful to you, Kristen Barret-Anderson, Director of the Museum and Shrine in honor of St. Marianne Cope. Thank you for talking to us today about this great American saint. And we encourage people to check out the website, stmarianne.org. Thanks so much, Kristen, for joining us on today's program.
Thank you, Michael.
God bless. That was Kristen Barret-Anderson, Director of the Museum and Shrine. Check that one out, that place dedicated to the Saint Marianne Cope. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be looking at the question of the week. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. Here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. Hey, I love getting your questions. People write in from around the world with questions about miracles happening in today's world and those happening centuries ago. And I love getting your questions. I think it's pretty fun to see what people are thinking about. You fill up my email inbox with some pretty strange and interesting things, which I enjoy reading about. But for people who want to ask me questions in person, which is more fun than getting an email from me, you can invite me to your parish or your conference or other event, and I'll come out and speak to your crowd. And so I speak about 10 to 20 places around the country each and every year, and I always talk about Marian apparitions or Eucharistic miracles or how saints are made or how the church investigates miracles or whatever it might be. I love doing these things, and so people can invite me. If you go to my website, miraclehunter.com, and click on the Contact tab, maybe I'll be speaking at a church in your area sometime soon. So this is a great question from John. John says, "Dear Miracle Hunter, I saw this on social media. Is it true?" John, well, of course, when you say it's on social media, I tend to think it's not true, but certainly there's plenty of eye-catching things on social media. And so he pastes this quote, this text that says, "The Vatican is examining a possible miracle attributed to Benedict XVI. In May 2012, 19-year-old Peter Sirsich of Colorado traveled to Rome suffering from advanced Hodgkin's lymphoma, pressing on his heart a condition doctors considered extremely dangerous. And during an audience in St. Peter's Square, Pope Benedict XVI blessed Peter and unknowingly placed his hand exactly over the tumor, and soon after, Peter experienced a complete and medically unexplained recovery. 9 years later, on May 15, 2021, Peter Sirsich was ordained a priest, a powerful testimony of faith and healing, now under careful review by the Church." Well, it certainly sounds like something written by AI, but is it true? Peter Sirsich did meet Pope Benedict XVI in May 2012 through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and yes, he was seriously ill with lymphoma, and his family and some media have recounted this experience and the recovery that happened afterwards. And what's interesting, Sirsich later became a Catholic priest in 2021 after completing seminary formation. And of course, different Catholic blogs and posts and information sources present the idea of this being reviewed as a possible miracle, but there's no confirmation from Rome of this. And what's even more interesting, of course, is that when it comes to miracles used for the canonization of saints, they never are allowed to use miracles that happen during the life of the future saint.
If that were the case, for example, Solanus Casey from Detroit would easily be a saint. He's got cabinets full of claims of miracles that happened while he was living, or Padre Pio had so many miracles claimed while he was living. But in order to show that the person is in heaven with God and interceding for people on earth, it must be after death. So, of course, this story is not true because at the time of the healing, Pope Benedict had not died yet. And so it was a miracle that happened on earth, perhaps we might say, and it could not be used for his canonization. But it certainly made for a lively social media post. So thanks, John, for your question. If you have a question for the Miracle Hunter, you can send me an email to questions@miraclehunter.com, and maybe I'll be answering your question on the air next week. Let's take a look at the 365 Days with Mary project. We do this every week where we look at a Marian devotion that lines up exactly to the day's date, whether it be a feast day or a miraculous event or the consecration of a basilica or another way that Mary is honored in some way in some country around the world. So for today's date, January 24th, we've got the icon of the Mother of God of Aletz from Russia in the year 1060. And the Aletz icon of the Mother of God appeared in the year 1060. And it received its name because it appeared in a cathedral church dedicated to the Smolensk icon of the Mother of God in the city of Aletz in the Orlov province. And January 11th on the Old Orthodox calendar and 24th on the new one is the feast day for the icon of the Mother of God of Aletz from Russia in the year 1060. For more information on this fascinating devotion, or any of the hundreds of other Marian devotions from around the world, you can go to 365dayswithmary.com, pick up the book, go to the Facebook page of 365 Days with Mary, and join any of the 10,000 other followers who get a title of Mary on their Facebook page each and every day of the calendar year. Let's take a look at the miracle of the day. Each week we try to find a miracle that happened on the day's date at some time in Christian history. So today's date is January 24th. So on January 24th, 1772, a remarkable event was reported at the church of San Pietro ad Aram in Naples, in Italy, when a fire broke out within the church building. After the flames were extinguished, clergy searching through the damaged sanctuary discovered a consecrated host that had remained completely intact. While nearby objects had been burned or reduced to ash, the Eucharist showed no signs of heat damage, discoloration, or decay. And this unexpected preservation of the host deeply moved the local faithful, who viewed it as a sign of reverence for the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. And after this incident, ecclesiastical authorities conducted an investigation to determine whether the event could reasonably be explained by natural causes. Witness testimonies were collected, circumstances surrounding the fire were carefully reviewed, and the miracle was not proclaimed at the universal level of the church. The local bishop authorized public veneration of the preserved host, recognizing the event as an extraordinary sign worthy of devotion. And the miracle of San Pietro ad Aram became part of Naples' long Eucharistic tradition, strengthening local faith and reinforcing Catholic belief in the sacredness of the Blessed Sacrament. And that is today's Miracle of the Day. Let's take a look at sainthood news. We always do this because it lines up so well with my program, They Might Be Saints, and my book, They Might Be Saints. I'm always interested in those people advancing on the path to sainthood. And last month, Pope Leo received in audience His Eminence Cardinal Marcello Semeraro, who's the prefect for the dicastery for the cause of saints. And during this audience, the Pope authorized this dicastery to promulgate a decree regarding the heroic virtues of the servant of God, Berardo Antona, born Giuseppe. He was professed priest of the Order of Friars Minor, born in 1843 in Episcopio di Sarno in Italy, and he died on March 4th, 1917 in Naples. And he was declared a servant of, he moved up to be a venerable, and he was considered to be a professed priest of the Orders of Friars Minor. His life was inspired by Christian hope, which gave him confidence in divine mercy and serenity in times of difficulty. He devoted himself with fraternal charity to alleviating the suffering of the poor, the sick, and the weakest, in whom he saw the face of Christ. He was, above all, pastor of charity, aiming at the conversion of sinners and the salvation of souls. And that was the description that was listed on the dicastery for the Cause of Saints website. And so with one miracle, he will be known as Blessed Berardo. And with the second miracle, he'll be Saint Berardo. And he's today's saint of the day. And the might-be saint of the day, we've got Blessed Luigi Pranducci, who lived from 1896 to 1947 in Albania. He was born on January 24th in 1896 in Shokre in Albania, and he studied in colleges and seminaries in Italy and Sarvano. And he was ordained a priest of the Diocese of Saipe in Albania in March of 1921. He was a parish priest in Albania and accused by the communist government of being a spy for the Vatican. He was arrested in 1946 in December, imprisoned, abused, and finally executed in public as a lesson to anyone who intended to stay true to Christianity. And he died on January 24th, 1947 in Shelket, Albania, and he was declared a martyr by Pope Francis in April 2016. And that beatification was held in Albania and presided by Cardinal Angelo Amato. And one miracle will lead him to be known as a saint. And that's today's might-be saint of the day, Blessed Luigi Pranducci from Albania. This week on They Might Be Saints, the episode on Mother Mary Teresa Dujic will air. On Tuesday, January 27th, we'll see the episode looking at the canonization cause of Mother Mary Teresa Dujic, who was a Polish immigrant who founded her own order of nuns to care for the poor, elderly, and abandoned. You can tune into EWTN television, or you can go to the website theymightbesaints.com, and you can watch the episode streaming online. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be speaking with Lenora McKean, the executive director of the Bishop Baraga Association, and finding out what about that new miracle that's being claimed related to Venerable Bishop Baraga. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. Here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill and the Miracle Hunter. People who tune into this show know that I love talking about those people on the path to sainthood. And of course, we're talking about servants of God, venerable blesseds, before they have all their miracles are on their way to Rome to be declared saints. And so I've been so honored to be able to do this television series called They Might Be Saints, where we look at these people and the Americans on the path. And I think that it's inspiring for all of us to know that Americans can be saints too, and that there are people who are being considered for sainthood. And I wrote this book also, They Might Be Saints, and there's a section in there dedicated to Frederick Baraga. And in my various research on his life and on the projects that we've done related to him, he's become somewhat of a little bit of a patron saint for me in so many ways. Every time I think I'm doing what I need to do to evangelize, I think of the great work of the snowshoe priest who sacrificed his life in so many ways to bring the gospel to those people in Michigan on snowshoe. And we're so excited today to be joined by Lenora McKean. She's the executive director of the Bishop Baraga Association, and she was featured in that program, They Might Be Saints, on EWTN, and also Walking with Baraga, the Joe Gregorich story. She contributed to that as well. Welcome back to the program today, Len.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to have you on again, and always excited to talk about Bishop Baraga, and always want to spread his story far and wide as much as we can. And I think that his story needs to be known. And for those people who don't know the name, Bishop Frederick Baraga, who is the man? Who are we talking about here?
So Frederick Baraga was born in Slovenia in 1797, and he died in 1868, and I always chuckle because we're still translating his writings today, and he's still so relevant today. But he was a priest that wanted to come to America, to the New World, because they needed priests to minister to the Native Americans. The Native Americans were asking for a black robe to come and teach them the faith, and so he answered that call. He ended up spending 38 years living amongst the Native Americans, teaching them the Catholic faith, baptizing them, helping them with their sacraments, but also helping them build civilized communities because they were living in such a vast, open wilderness that, they were. It was like a blank slate everywhere they went. So he became a great friend to them.
And what about this moniker, the snowshoe priest? What is that about?
Well, he's called the snowshoe priest because he spent most of those 38 years in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And we have even made the national news lately because we've been pelted with snow. He would never allow that to prevent him from traveling to go and to meet the people that he was working with. And so when the weather got bad and he couldn't travel by water or he couldn't walk, he would snowshoe so that he could still get to the Native Americans. And that's so many stories of near misses with him where, he was out freezing and in horrible conditions. And he kept doing it because it was for the glory of God. And one of the other monikers that just lives in my head all the time is he always said the salvation of one soul is worth all the money in the world. It didn't matter what it took, but saving one person, helping them on their way to heaven, was worth any pain and suffering he had to endure.
Absolutely. And his effort was tremendous, traveling all those miles across Michigan. But I was always impressed at how early he woke up in the morning and how he traveled with one potato to eat. And the conditions that he went through were amazing. But this isn't. This is a highly educated, and he spoke many languages, which I think is kind of interesting. I mean, he's this outdoorsman who's also got this great command of languages. Talk about his translations of the native languages there, and in bringing people to the faith using his various skills and languages.
He exemplifies the scripture that says, "Give up everything and follow me." He was a lawyer. He could have had a much easier life, but that wasn't what he was called to do. And so he was a gifted linguist. By the time he died, he was fluent in 8 languages. And I think one of the greatest gifts that he brought with him was that deep desire that people needed to be ministered to in their native tongue. And so it was just critical to him that they were able to become educated. They were able to expand that education. The Native Americans, they had their language. He referred to it as the Ojibwa because back then it was kind of a combination of Ojibwa and Chippewa. They had their own language, but it wasn't a written language, and he just couldn't understand how they could grow in their education if it wasn't written for them so they could study and they could read and they could write, and for other people that were going to be interacting with them to be able to learn the language. So he published in 1853 the dictionary of the Ojibwa language. He also wrote a grammar book and ended up writing 20 different prayer books for the Native Americans because, again, how can they learn and grow if they don't have resources? But as he inspired 17 seminarians to follow him over, 3 of them went on to be bishops, and they come over to minister to the Native Americans. He said to all of them, if you're not willing to learn their language, don't bother coming because you need to be able to learn their language. And I think, he's one of the contradictions. Oftentimes we hear about forced assimilation. That wasn't him. It got him in trouble a lot because at that time the government would give him money for his schools and for churches, with the only caveat being he needed to teach the children and the people English. And he would do that, but not before they learned to read and write their own native language. And so that got him in trouble a lot. A lot of times the government withheld the funding. And, it wasn't that he was opposed to teaching them English, but he felt that they needed to have a good command of their own language first. So that respect that he had for them just garnered trust and admiration and genuineness from the Native Americans.
Absolutely. And along those lines, talk a little bit about at his death, at his funeral, the attendance at his funeral by by Native Americans, and even today how Native Americans might view Bishop Baraga, reflecting on history. What is his standing amongst the people?
So when he died January 19th. So yesterday was the anniversary of his death. Of course, it was blizzarding in Marquette, so they weren't able to have his funeral for 12 days because people wanted to be able to travel in. And it was like a civic day of mourning. Everything closed down. Chief Kabagum and Chief Assinant, who he was very, very good friends with, they all made the trek so that they could be there to pay respects for his funeral. And today, the elders know what a difference he made in their life. At the Bishop Baraga Association here in Marquette, we have 3 Native Americans that sit on our advisory board because they know the difference that he made to their history.
Wonderful. And what is it that the Bishop Baraga Association does in order to keep the name and the life and the legacy alive of Bishop Frederick Baraga? What can we do? What do you do to spread the word about him?
So we're the official association for his cause for canonization. We are a standalone entity, meaning that we are completely donor-funded. While the Bishop of the Diocese of Marquette is my boss, we are not funded by the diocese, and so we count on our donors and supporters to help us be able to promote and teach people about Bishop Baraga. And to that end, we have promotional material that we send out on a regular basis. We do talks, we hold events, anything that we can do to help people understand who this saintly man is. For a long time, I've said, of course, we need him, right? We need him as a saint, the lay people, but our priests need him as well, and our bishops, because this is a person who times were difficult. There were many times he could have said, I'm going to go back home. It's going to be much more simpler. But he would never give up. And even when it was hard to do the right thing, he always did what was right, even if that put him in danger. And I think we need that in our world today. We need that anchor that keeps us focused on God, keeps God the center of our life. And that was his motto, unum est necessario, one thing is necessary. If you've got the love of the Lord in your heart, you don't have to worry about anything else. He will provide. And I think that people knowing him will help be an anchor for the challenges that they encounter in their daily lives.
Wonderful. We've been talking with Lenora McKean, the Executive Director of the Bishop Baraga Association. You mentioned that you're in charge of his canonization cause. And of course, he's a venerable, which means his life of heroic virtue has been established. But to move forward to blessed, one miracle needs to be found and validated by Rome. And there was the claim of a miracle that happened in recent times that's currently under investigation. What can you tell us about the status or the background on that miracle?
So we do have a potential cure, as they're referred to, that has been fully investigated, which, is a long, complicated process. People have to be interviewed. Everything has to be transcribed. Then it has to be translated into Italian. And that gets submitted to Rome, where it goes to 2 medical experts. They review it, and, of course, your hope is that they both review it favorably, because then it's sent on to the medical commission for review. Our potential cure is under review in Rome, and we just patiently wait. I always say that it's an opportunity for us to kind of get our house in order, that this doesn't just happen. He's done the work, right? So now it's really up to us to do the work. And so it's us to be prayerful and to be consistently praying for his canonization, reporting any intercessions that people believe that they have, and to stay faithful. Sometimes we get tested. Why is it taking so long? We get impatient, and sometimes it's easy to give up, but that's a test of our faith, right? We need to stay the course. It will happen in God's time.
Wonderful. Well, we're so grateful to you, Lenora McKean, for joining us on today's program. For people who want to know more about Bishop Baraga, perhaps to learn about his life, to find an intercessory prayer, or to sign up for things like the virtual snowshoe walk that I know you host. Tell us where people can go to find about the latest and greatest about Bishop Baraga.
The best place is the Bishop Baraga website, so it's bishopbaraga.org, and all of that information is on there. We keep it updated with different events we have, like the virtual snowshoe walk. They can find the Dovina. They can find the prayer for canonization. We do a blog, and we also notify you when we have new merchandise on that, which we've just released a new translation of a book that was written in the Slovenian language, never translated into English, and a reprint of Shepherd of the Wilderness, which is a very difficult to find book that we were able to reprint and have available to people. So the website, bishopbaraga.org, and then you can always contact the Bishop Baraga Association, and we're happy to talk to you and answer your questions.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Lenora McKean, for joining us on today's program.
Thank you.
God bless. That was Lenora McKean, the Executive Director of the Bishop Baraga Association. People can go to bishopbaraga.org for more information, or if you want to watch the episode of They Might Be Saints, go to theymightbesaints.com and click on the on-demand link, and you can watch the episode right there to learn about the life of this great future American saint. And that's all the time we have for today's show. If you missed any of this episode or want to catch up on past episodes, you can go to EWTN.com/radio and check out the audio archives or download the free EWTN app. I'd like to thank our guest today, Kristen Barret-Anderson, the director of the Museum and Shrine of St. Marianne Cope, and also Lenora McKean, the executive director of the Bishop Baraga Association. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today on Miracle Hunter, where from claims of healings and visions to the world's most inexplicable events, whether you're a believer or a skeptic, the truth is always worth the hunt. Talk to you next week.